Peter Charles here, Hooked for Life Fly Fishing, and today we're going to do the black and yellow tube fly. I know I'm on a black and yellow kick lately. It's a simple pattern with one little tricky bit in it, so we'll discuss that when we get to it. But again, black and yellow, who can complain about that color scheme? Works for steelhead, Atlantic salmon, and I'm sure it'll work for other species as well. So let's look at the materials and what we're going to do. I've got a 2-inch aluminum tube here in the vise. We're going to be using black 6-knot Vivas for thread. Our rib is going to be this Uni-French medium oval silver. We're going to be using some black floss for the body. And we're going to be using yellow and black bucktail. So not much to it, very simple. So let's get going. First we're going to tie in the rib. Tie it on top as I usually do with all my tube fly patterns. Now we're going to tie in the floss as well. Now keep everything on top. Let's work it all back. Then just come forward. Okay, now you'll see I've put my floss in the bobbin. That's a handy way to put floss on a tube because it's sometimes hard to judge how much you're going to need. So if you're feeding from a bobbin, you don't have that problem. I don't wind it though because that will put twists into the bobbin, into the floss. So by holding it flat the way I'm doing it, I can keep my floss laying flat. And just make sure you don't show any of the aluminum tube. So this is the bit I'm talking about with this particular fly. We're putting bucktail on the top and on the bottom in roughly equal amounts. Now, if I wasn't careful, this fly would go onto its side. And what I've done by putting that spine made by the materials, the tags that I've tied on, it creates a hydrodynamic effect which will keep this thing upright. So if you're not careful about how you tie your tags in, this thing is going to be going like this when you try to fish it. It's important that you run your tags all the way down the top of the tube to make a spine. I've got a video that explains how to do this and why it works. So that is the thing to keep in mind with this fly. Don't attempt to be sort of nonchalant with the tags and thinking that you can just put them anywhere. Okay, now for the rib, turn at the back and come forward. Just double that over. That way it locks it in place, it won't pull out. When you've got that much ribbing on a tube, there's always a chance that a fish's teeth will grab it and pull it out. So if you lock it back, you can prevent that from happening. Okay, we're going to put the yellow on first. Now you could stack this, but what I'm going to do with this one, I'm turning my vise upside down, so I'm putting this on the bottom. What I'm going to do with this one is leave it unstacked, but I've been pulling out strays, and like this one right here, I'll get rid of that. Pulling out the odd bits and the extra long ones, so I'm basically almost stacking it by hand. It gives the edge it avoids a squared off appearance, but it has all of the hairs ending at the same spot. So I'm going to bring it back to about, the longest hairs to about there. And make sure that's on the bottom of the tube and it's square. Put some wraps behind that, some firm wraps so it won't move when I cut it off. Now a couple of light wraps just to keep it from flaring too much. Okay, there we go. Now for the black, we're going to do the same thing. A couple of long ones there I'm going to pull out. Want the black and the yellow to be the same. Now my black appears a little on the lighter side than the yellow, so I'm going to put a couple of wraps in here just to hold it in place. Put a few more on. You want these to be about equal, so you get even swim. You don't have a situation where one is light, one is heavy, and it flips it around. So I'm just going to put a few more hairs on here. Again, do the same thing. Get rid of the long and the short ones. This is a good thing to do. Take a moment when you're trying to match up bucktails, a bucktail wing like this, and you're trying to make sure you've got equal amounts on both sides. It helps to take your time. Yeah, there's a long one in there. There we go. And just if you have to add some, add some. No rules. You can add some if you want. Okay, let's get rid of this black tag. Now the trick is to finish off this head without slipping into that gap. And I've made this head relatively smaller than normal, so we might have some issues here. I'm going to have to be careful. See, I slipped into that gap. If you find yourself running into problems, what you can do is fill up that gap. I try to avoid doing this, but sometimes it's unavoidable. And then bind your head down. Yeah, we got a little bit of a bump there, so we'll come back and see if we can fill up that bump so it's less noticeable. Okay, bring your thread to the back. And here's where we put in those soft wraps that just keeps the bucktail from going like that. I got a little bit of a bump, but you know what, we're going to live with it. Okay, wet finish time. Now for some UV glue. Now for some top coat. There we have it, our black and yellow tube fly. Nice and easy pattern. I often like these nice easy patterns, especially if you're going to be fishing over, you know, really rock-strewn bottoms where there can also be other debris down there. I do a lot of urban fishing where you can find all sorts of junk in the water. It really is bothersome to put a lot of effort into a fly and then lose it on the first cast. It's happened. So when you have simple flies like this, not only do they work, but you don't agonize over losing them to the bottom. So there we go, the black and yellow tube. Give it a try. Cheers.